I just want to know, how do you do your cereal? Because we were talking about how like you don't want to taste milk because if you do, you're going to want cereal. And if you start cereal, you're going to become basically a heroin addict for cereal. I'm just wondering, like, if you go for more than one bowl of cereal, how do you do it? Are you the type of person who do you pour your cereal in the bowl first, then you do the milk, then when you finish the cereal, do you pour more
Can I
cereal in the
stop you real quick?
you already got? Good, yeah, yeah.
What kind of a serial killer pours the milk in the bowl first, then the cereal?
That's a good question. I'm sure there's people out there that do it though.
No, there's not. All right, continue. That's psychotic.
I guess it's a just asking for a mess, right? Because milk's
That's
just
like
gonna go
putting your
everywhere.
shoes on before your socks. Yes, that's the fucking dumbest thing I've ever. Go, come on.
No, I pretty much asked the rest of the question. Like,
Okay,
once you finish a bowl of cereal, are you gonna pour? Are you gonna drink that milk, or are you and then start a whole new bowl of cereal, or are you going to keep the milk you have, pour more cereal in it, and then pour more milk?
great question. Now that you finished it.
Well, I don't know that it was.
Well, let me just start by saying I haven't had a regular bowl of cereal in so long, and I hate it that I don't eat it. I miss it, but I can't have it. But here's how I used to do it. So yeah, I would pour the cereal, I would finish the cereal, leftover milk would be there. I'd pour more cereal on top of that, then more milk. I'd do it again and again and again and again until I had a fucking stomach ache and a headache and I was dizzy and I needed to pass out. But before I passed out, I would drink the rest of the milk, whatever was left, call it a
Of
day.
course, of course.
Yeah, I was a
Okay.
cereal fiend, dude. Bad.
I actually
Love
did have a
cereal.
bowl of cereal pretty recently because we've got like some like organic type of cereal that I got from Schnucks for my son. Like they're PB Blast, they're peanut butter, and they're pretty good.
Do you do that with regular milk? Or are you like almond milk
I
or oat milk
I
or
I
something?
I've done both, but I did regular milk on this one.
Okay.
But if I have to
Organic,
if I have to choose health wise, yeah, I would do almond milk.
unsweetened almond milk.
If you're doing cereal, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, you can probably get by with it because the flavor of the cereal is going to flavor the milk.
Why is the
But
almond milk healthier than the regular milk?
because it's coming from a nut instead of
It's
a
loaded with sugar.
not as much though, right? I might be wrong. I don't know.
Whole milk is 11 grams of sugar. It's sad that I know that. Like I have like on the trigger on that, but
It's weird that we have that in our mind because I'm pretty sure that Mountain Dew is 76 grams of sugar
oh God.
in a
Yeah, I'm
bottle.
sure it is. Do
No,
my
I'm
teeth
serious.
just
I
you
didn't
said
make that
Mountain
up.
Dew and my teeth started hurting.
I
Mountain
did.
Dew's disgusting.
I could demolish a bottle, but after like one bottle, I would die.
My wife used to drink that shit when I first met her when she was young and a party girl and would spend most mornings being hungover. First thing she would do in the morning is slam Mountain Dew. Not coffee, not water, Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
And she would transform into a worker bee or whatever she needed to get done that day. It was like the Mountain Dew did it. And
I've
I
seen it,
always called
dude.
her, she's still gross. That's gross. Mountain Dew's disgusting.
I've seen it, dude. I've seen like, especially places that I've worked night shift.
Yeah.
I've seen guys walking around with 2 liter bottles of Mountain Dew, and that's pretty much all they drink all night long. And I'm like,
Fucking gross.
you
It's
know, then
so,
they may throw like an energy drink in
oh,
somewhere with
yeah,
it.
that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, how do your kidneys function? Like, this makes no
Jeez.
sense. How do you still have feet? Like, none of this makes sense.
Well, I want to talk about something that we talked about on the last show. I want to clarify some things. So on the last show, you posed a question. You brought up, radio stations starting playlists of bands local to their area, and would that be beneficial to the bands? Now, when you asked me this, the conversation started because you brought up back in the day when radio stations, specifically the one in our city, would put together compilation CDs of local bands and they would give them out. And I brought up the benefits of that because, back at that time, every band wanted to be on the radio, or most wanted, part of the success, the path, the trajectory to success was getting on the radio, get a song on the radio. So not only were you put on this compilation CD that many, many people in your hometown would get and have, but you would also be played on the radio. Not all of those bands were, but a lot of them were. So when you posed the question, I answered it, but I only answered it in like I think I had like a two part answer, and I only answered one part. As I just said, you know, previously when a radio station would make a compilation CD, back in those days, you got to understand the music industry and the industry in general, radio and how people consume their music was just completely different. So those CDs were really beneficial, not only to the station, but to the artist and to the fan and like to everyone. So when you asked, what if they created a playlist now? I beg the question, who's going to listen to it and how are they going to find it? And how is it not just going to just disappear into the ether of all the other playlists that could
Right.
potentially contain those bands?
And that's a very good question. And honestly, when I came up with that question, I came up with it on the fly. I hadn't even thought about that
Well,
until the moment that that question came up. So I didn't really know. And I don't even know if it's a thing or if it's a thing that could be started. Like, should radio stations make something like that, like on Spotify or, I don't even know. Can you make playlists on like Apple Music and stuff like that too to
You can make
share around?
playlists. You can make
Thing?
playlists everywhere, man. The important thing to think about is this, and this is what we didn't discuss on the last show. With the playlist, what is required of that is the marketing aspect of that, meaning you need to tell people that it exists, right?
Well, you'd have to post it on the socials for sure.
Not only that, but there would have to be, not that the radio station would do this or care to do this, there would have to be some sort of a little bit of like a monetary push behind it too. If the intent was really this needs to get to people. Now it doesn't need to get to people. The radio station is going to be fine if their local artists never get discovered by people, right? Doesn't matter. So what I'm saying is, and I brought up the question last show, is like, all right, well, if they create this playlist, are they going to play the bands? And here's why I'm asking that. Because if you play the band and then you say, hey, by the way, you can go find them on this playlist we created here, now it's a win-win for everyone. You've done your job of playing the band on the radio, which again, is it as important now as it was 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
Right.
Probably not. I still think it's cool. I still think it's important in specific markets and for specific types of music.
So
You've got it on the radio, you've put it on the playlist, you've talked about the playlist, you've directed people to the playlist. My only problem is that the playlist market, if you will, is so saturated.
True. Yeah.
And other artists will be able to vouch for this, where you can submit your new song to a playlist and a curator might like it enough to put it on their playlist, but to what benefit?
So
More people hear it, sure.
So you said there would have to be a monetary push behind it. I understand that. So how does it work for a bigger name band who's getting played on the radio station? So say like our local radio station has certain bands they play all over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? Is the station getting paid to play those songs? I mean,
No.
they're not. So what is the
That used to happen.
So what's the end game there for a radio station to play music in the first place? Just to be a radio station?
Well, they make their money through their corporate sponsorships. It's not through.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I guess my question is what's the incentive of them playing a certain band on the station?
Well, you got to look at it this way. You have to serve your demographic. So you have to pick things that serve your demographic. So
Right.
when you're talking about a rock alternative station like we have here in St. Louis, they can play I call them staple bands. So the bands that they've always played that have a sound that's always been successful on the station, always hit their market, always hit the demographic. And then you can venture out and you can experiment with different types of sounds, different types of bands who perhaps can fit into the market, can fit into the demographic in a way that you perhaps didn't expect them to. Say like a Bad Omens, for instance, or you could go, I'm going back years now, but so when the Point was really, really kicking on what I call butt rock, but a lot of the normal bands you would hear, 3 Days Grace, Seether, all those bands, Cage the Elephant came out and totally different sound, totally different vibe. And they were extremely popular on rock alternative radio. So you have those bands that do that, and you have those stations that will take chances. But here's the thing. There's not one station taking that chance. All of these stations have a database where they know what's getting played the most, what's hitting in what market, so on and so forth. So it's not like it's not like there's this like, sort of like, oh, we hit the lottery with this one. No. But back to what you said about paying. So that was one of the controversies with Limp Bizkit when they were getting started, is the label was paying radio stations to play Limp Bizkit. And that was really considered highly unethical. And a lot of people thought it was bullshit. I think even other bands were kind of upset about it.
Doesn't it seem kind of crazy that doesn't happen more often? Or you think it does happen more often and it just didn't get talked about?
if it does, it doesn't get talked about, and they really try to keep it. Like I said, it's considered unethical, and I think that if they do it, it's definitely on the low,
Gotcha. Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
So back to the original thing here, like I think if you create the playlist, you got to play the bands on the radio, and you have to make it a thing. Like, we've created this because this is the best of the best and good enough to be on our radio station. If not, who cares? Who cares? It doesn't mean all of them have to get played. It doesn't mean, because
Well,
I
I mean,
understand, like,
my original thing, we were talking about the Point Essentials compilation albums they were putting out and stuff like that. My original thing was, they keep talking about how important back then that it was, how crucial that the radio station in St. Louis was for these bands to make it out of St.
yeah,
Louis and
yeah,
to be somebody, is especially in the scene. So getting played was a huge thing for them. So I guess all I'm trying to figure out is, like, what's the equivalent to that today? What does a radio station do besides play the songs of a local band to help them? And on the other side of that, is it the station's job to do that anymore?
it's not.
Do
No,
they care to do that anymore?
I mean, I'm sure that some care, sure, but I mean, it's not their. It's definitely not their job, and no, there's no equivalent to that anymore. It's just the industry's changed to the point where bands don't need to be on the radio or need a radio station to break them. They don't. They just don't.
But would you make the argument that it's harder to break today because it's so saturated everywhere,
Well,
or at least break in a certain city? You know what I mean?
my question would be, what's your definition of break?
What's your definition of break as a musician?
Well, okay, you could be a band now and put out some really solid songs, have a TikTok that has millions and millions of followers, gets millions and millions of views. I would argue that you're reaching more people than if, 30 years ago, you're a band that your local station plays through word of mouth and kind of organic discovery. Other stations kind of pick up on it. They start playing you. So regionally, you start picking up some steam, you start touring, people start showing up to the shows a little bit more and more here and there. I would argue that today you're reaching more people. And then I think it's up to you how you capitalize on that outreach and on the success of that outreach.
Well, we've talked about
Meaning,
like record labels. We've talked about like record labels like finding a sound for a while and then all of a sudden trying to like get a hold of these bands who sound like this.
yeah,
So as far as that goes, like, it's got to make it a lot harder. Like, I understand that it's easier to reach more people, but as far as like getting signed, seems like it would be a lot harder because now a record label, can, like, they got millions of these bands at their fingertips now that are just out on Spotify and Apple Music and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, to try and step into the mindset of a record label anymore is just a waste of time, to be honest with you, because who knows what they're looking for. I mean, I think the indie rock, punk rock, metal labels still have. I really think that they've kind of stayed true to what their mission has been. I mean, there are great labels still that put out great bands, and I don't think that's changed. I don't think it's going to change, but those bands aren't going to be necessarily total mainstream success stories, and that's okay. A lot of bands are okay with that. I think they should be. You sent me Beartooth has the #1 rock song in the country right now. If you look at the timeline of that band and how long it's taken them to get to that point, it wasn't overnight. It's not
Right.
like they had to put in the work,
By the
you
way,
know.
would you think that would be the song that made its #1 first off of that record?
Yeah, it's a great song, man. It's a fucking great song.
I
I
kind of
would have
thought that,
expected the song with Hardy to
and
be that one,
is it
but
because of is it because of the crossover though?
I don't know, man.
Because
I mean,
you're gonna get
is it
Hardy
because,
fans on the country music side too,
well,
maybe.
I didn't expect that necessarily. I just think it's a pop song. I honestly think it's a pop song that has heavy metal riffs. And it's funny, my wife and I were watching videos. We were listening to music last night and Beartooth came on, and I don't remember what song it was. It was one of the new ones. And she goes, "This is kind of country sounding too." And I'm like, "I think you're getting a little carried away with this." I think you're just trying to get under my
I'm gonna need
skin.
you to leave the room,
I'm
please.
gonna need you to just keep it to yourself from now on. But here's the thing. I know why she's saying that, because country has such a way of appealing to regular people. Now, I don't say regular people, I don't mean to be insulting. I'm not. What I'm saying is people that don't really do a deep dive into music, they can hear a country song, for instance, the Morgan Wallen song we played last week. They can hear that and go, that's catchy. I might not be the biggest country fan, but that's catchy. I'll buy that for 99 cents.
Right.
Or, oh, add it to my Spotify playlist. I get why she's saying that. I think that they have legitimately 7 songs on the new record that are what I consider to be catchy enough to be pop songs. Might not be pop songs because of the music surrounding the hooks and the overall feel, but that's just me. So I get why she's saying that. But if you look, so back to what I was saying, if you look at the path to being the band with the number one rock song across all of the platforms and whatever, it took a while.
Right.
So, and we talked about it. We've watched video. We look at the YouTube subscribers and we look at like the followers and we're like, oh God, this feels low. And maybe we hold them to a higher standard. I don't know. Or maybe it's just not that easy. It's easy to get noticed. It's easy to go viral, but what do you do to capitalize on that? I guess that's what I'm saying.
Right.
When's the last time you heard Jarris Johnson's name? I heard his name recently because he was bitching
really?
about record labels in some interview, maybe on a podcast or something.
I haven't heard his name since the song with Papa Roach.
That's what I'm saying. 3 years ago,
yeah,
that's all we talked about because it was all over TikTok. He was the next big thing. Haven't heard about him. Is that his fault? I don't know. But he got popular through TikTok. What did he do to capitalize? Now, if he's saying, fuck the record labels, I'm not going to sign any deal. I'm going to be me. And okay, well, then I guess you and I have to do our research and we have to kind of be like, here's an independent artist. He is not affiliated with anything. He's not going to get force fed down our throats. So we have to go rediscover him, I guess. It's a very, dude, it's a crazy like life cycle. And by life cycle, what I mean, like you could be a band that, you know, gets set up for success and you don't really see the success until way later on. And again, that's okay. Or you could be a band that kind of like an Imagine Dragons, for instance. You get set up for success, you write some really good songs, and the rest is history. That's it. I remember I saw them. I think I told this story to you, but I saw them live right after what's the song? The big one, Radioactive. Right after that broke, like it was like on the rise. They played the pageant. I went with a buddy. Music snob. He's a music snob. I had an extra ticket. I was like, hey, you want to go with me to this? And he said, yeah, let's go. Halfway through, he nudged me. He's like, dude, this band's really fucking good. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say other than it's fucking good. This band's going to be huge. And then right after we said that, the lead singer went into it. They were in between songs and he went into a little speech and he was like, yeah, we've been a band he's like, we've been a band for 3 years. It's been a long road to get here. And my buddy goes, what the fuck did he just say? I was like, oh shit. Did he lose us? Or did he lose you at least? Like so 3 years is not a long time.
No, not at all.
Especially back in 2011 I think that's when that band got popular. That's not a long time at all. That's a very short amount of time to be a band and really be basically on top of the world in 3 years, 4 years. That's insane.
But, you know, I going back to what you said earlier, and you said last podcast too, I kind of agree that I don't know that a Beartooth is as big as what we think they are or what we want them to be. I understand they just now hit, you know, number 1 on Billboard. That's awesome, but I don't know. And also they're playing pops, right? When they come in next year, they're playing pops, right?
Yeah.
You think that's a choice, or do you think because when you see
I think it's the
that wasn't a very big place either, right?
When I saw them,
yeah, was it
was like a pops? Yeah.
My question is, could they play a pageant and still
definitely
put in good numbers?
Definitely. Yeah, I think it has to do with the promoter. It's who got the show. It's who booked the show. That's it. The guy. I don't want to get into this, but the guy who booked the show and is promoting the show, if he gets the show, it's going to pops. It's not going to go to the pageant. He doesn't have the pageant, I guess is what I'm saying. So good on him. They're going to fill that fucking place. At least I hope they do. I mean, I don't know how they don't. I would be shocked if they didn't. And I need to buy tickets to that still. Fuck.
Yeah, I do too. Is it in January?
No, it's in March.
March. Okay.
Yeah. Dayseekers in 10 days.
Do what? Where?
The Factory. So think
I
about what we just talked about. So
I didn't know
Beartooth is
this.
playing Pops. Dayseekers playing The Factory.
Is it during the week? Please don't tell me it's during
On
the
a
week.
Tuesday.
Fuck, dude. Why?
I'm going by myself. We were gonna get a babysitter and make a whole night of it. And I think last night, as we're watching Dayseeker videos, my wife just goes, I think you just need to go to this by yourself. Okay, I'm gonna
You
go.
just decided she's not that big of a fan, or what?
No, she wants to go. Dude, you got 2 kids and it's a whole fucking thing. It's not here.
Okay.
We get
Okay.
that's the problem.
Yeah,
It's almost like we would need to get a hotel
I gotcha.
if we really wanted to make a night of it. It's not making a night of it. It's like, all right, what time is it? Got to be watching our watches. So if it were like here, and I say this, but you know, the venue's 20 minutes away, but
Right.
still, that's a long 20 minutes. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Excited to see him.
And I'm not trying to knock anybody by saying this, but for somebody to say for people who are musicians who started out as a local band in St. Louis, for them to come out in front of, on a radio show in front of thousands and thousands of people and say it was huge for us that the radio stations were taking a chance on us and playing us on the radio and things like that, but that they're not doing anything for the next generation of those local bands. It almost feels hypocritical, but it's not. I don't expect them to go out and make these playlists or do this, but it seems like such a simple thing that they could do that wouldn't cost any money to do. I know, unless you want to put some monetary, some money behind it. But to hear, to hear people say it was so important that we had this to be where we are, and knowing that there's so many bands that are trying to do the same thing in what could be a harder situation to get there now because the market's so saturated. I don't know. I just feel like it wouldn't take much on the end of the station to do something to help the city. That's all I'm trying to say.
Well, you know me, man. I'd rather they just have a show that plays the music that comes out of the city versus a playlist. So,
which they did, but we've talked about that. But also
I'm talking about everywhere. I'm not just talking about here. I'm talking about every fucking market. If you have a rock station, why aren't you playing the bands and the artists from your area? It just makes zero. No, not even rock, hip hop.
And I mean, I understand it.
Fucking anybody.
Going back to what you were saying earlier about the demographic, you have a certain demographic that's looking for certain music, and I get it. You can't just throw in local music all the time on certain stations because you're going to lose people. So, it's all about the listenership still for a radio station. So you have to keep that in mind also. I mean, throwing a local band in here and there, that would be cool, but
stop saying local band. God, it's bugging me.
At this point, I'm doing it on purpose because of the
you're not.
The conversation we're having.
I know, it's fine. There's no way around it. Unfortunately, look, I guess this only matters if you still value the radio, and you'd be hard pressed to find people outside of the Midwest that actually do. And by people, I mean bands. I don't know that necessarily bands care anymore. I don't know if it's a goal anymore. It might be. Who knows?
You don't think there's cities in bigger markets that have the same outlook as what a bunch of like St. Louis bands do, like have bigger radio stations that they broke because, or at least in that city, because they're a bigger name radio station in that city promoted them and pushed them? Or you just think across the board it's not as important anymore?
I think across the board it's not that important anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm at on that. I just
I just wonder if there's other podcasts out there in like New York and Seattle and these places that are just saying the same shit that we are about their city, saying that their radio station should promote their local bands.
There could be. Look, I mean, when we're talking about a place like Seattle, completely different market, completely different scene of community in the music than here. Bigger, obviously. I would imagine.
Is it still like, do you know of a lot of bands that are making it big out of like Seattle now? Or do we just hold Seattle to a higher standard because of what has come out of there in the past?
I think we hold them to a higher standard, but I also don't think that where a band comes from anymore matters.
That makes
I don't
sense.
think it matters. You don't need to be a band and move to LA or New York anymore.
That makes sense.
It does not. You do not need to. There's the Axl Rose walking off a bus and walking into the jungle. It's not a thing anymore. Just
Yeah.
the I still got hay in my hair. I'm in the big city now. It just does not exist anymore. It doesn't, and I don't know if that's a good thing. That's my point. I with all of this, like the dreamer in me and the kid in me that was just mesmerized by the whole idea wants to say, God, it sucks now. I want to hear the stories of the small town kid, the little naive fucker that made it big. They went to the big city and they took over. I don't think it matters anymore. I don't, you have your big three in record labels now. None of them have, there are tons of like sub labels and all of this stuff. It's no one cares about it anymore. I don't know. And everyone's pushing you now to own your own music. Don't get fucked over by giving somebody your music. Taylor Swift is the prime example of that. And by
Right.
God, she's the biggest star on earth. The prime example of, she went #1 with a record that people already fucking had. She sold the most records.
Is that the
Like
one that she redid?
Yeah, she had the
Okay.
best debut ever with songs that everybody's already heard. How nuts is that? I know we do greatest hits records and we do remasters and remixes, but she put out the same record. I think she added like four unreleased songs or something. You would have to, but it's sold better than anything she's ever put out. That's
Yeah.
the craziest thing. I don't know, man.
I wonder what maybe that's what like bigger bands need to do now. Like what if Papa Roach decided to redo and put out a couple of their first couple of records?
Why would they have to though?
Why did Taylor Swift have to? I mean, I know the whole legal battle and everything that happened,
Well,
but
that's
she didn't have
why.
to. But okay,
She
but I don't think that's why she sold it as well the second time around. It was just because it was re-put into circulation in front of people.
No, I think people rally behind her story and rally behind her as an artist, and
Okay.
they thought, yeah, no, I honestly,
Okay, I believe you.
I'm guessing here, but if you look at the timeline and look at her track record, I think that's what it is. I think people bought into her story and got behind her. That's why she's selling out all these shows. And yeah, I don't know that a band but in the end, it was all about her having control of her stuff.
Yeah,
and
right.
not being fucked over by somebody. Now a band could do that. It could be we got fucked over. And I think, to be honest with you, bands have done that, but I don't know at the level that she has. That's the thing. Again, I'm saying things and I don't know fully the information, but like A Day to Remember, for instance, they used to be on a record label called Victory, and Victory's been notoriously known for fucking over bands, and they had a whole legal battle with them to get off the label and get rights to stuff. Let me look this up. So I'm not, and one of the more well-known ones with that label is Hawthorne Heights. On November 26th, 2016, A Day to Remember won the lawsuit against Victory Records. The band was given $4.2 million and won 3 of the 4 issues they were suing Victory for fulfilling the band's contract, controlling the band's publishing, and digital royalty withheld from the band. There you go. Yeah, Hawthorne Heights was another one that had a long legal battle with that record label. It's so crazy that these bands, this is how like hungry a lot of these bands are to just kind of like, I just want to be on a label. I just want them to put me out on the road. And what's the band from St. Louis that was on Victory? And I actually showcased for Victory way back in the day. So glad nothing came of that. And we were hearing the horror stories then about the label. It didn't matter. We were like, well, we want to do this. So sure, come on out. Come on out to the show.
Hang on. It wasn't Copperview, was it?
No, god damn it. It's a metal band. It's yes. What did you say?
Tear Out the Heart.
Yes, Tear Out the Heart. That's what I'm talking about. Good God. I remember when they signed with him, and because Victory was notoriously known for signing bands to 6 record deals, which is in the music industry, that's like a life sentence, So
Well, wasn't that the whole situation with Chevelle too, or something like that?
I don't know.
We talked about it, but it was because remember they came out and said they've never made a dime off of
Oh yeah.
actual making the music. It's all just been touring.
Right.
And because when they first signed, they signed for like a 6-record deal or something like that.
I mean, a 6-record deal just means you're contractually obligated to put out that amount of records with the label. A 6-record deal doesn't mean you're not going to make money. Now,
I
what
know,
do
I
they
get
put
that.
behind it? And that really all depends. In a case like Chevelle, they probably had some other stipulations in the contract that were really shitty. Another really famous one of that is TLC, TLC, the
Oh, really? I didn't know
girl
that.
group. Oh yeah, they so much fine print in the contract they signed that just fucked them out of so much money, and they never got it. They sued and they never got it. I think they got some of it, but they didn't get all of it. And they had sold millions and millions of records and didn't see much of that, which is crazy. Did you watch or hear about Tom Morello? I'm sorry. Did you watch or hear about Rage Against the Machine being inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
All I heard was that they did and that Tom Morello was the only one that showed up.
Yeah, he was the only one there. And I find it ironic that he was the one because he's always Mr. Anti everything. So, yeah. Dude, I'm a giant Rage Against the Machine fan. I think they have two of the best records ever made. They were a huge part of my childhood and, growing up playing music. But I remember as I was getting older, as YouTube became accessible to everyone and you really could discover, oh, there's a rabbit hole that I can go down. And so I went down a YouTube rabbit hole one night, and this is way later. They had already been a band that was broken up and whatever, but I went down a Rage Against the Machine live rabbit hole and like interview rabbit hole. And I just remember finding this interview with him, and I think it was Zach, the singer, and they were in like Finland or one of these countries like that. And they were so condescending and rude to the 23-year-old girl who was trying to interview them. And she's just trying to do a job,
Right.
Did her questions suck? Yeah, probably. But like, who cares? Just give the interview. Why are you going to be like condescending pricks? They were just so rude to her. And it rubbed me the wrong way so poorly that it made me go down the rabbit hole even more. I'm like, I wonder if he's like this all the time. And he pretty much was like that all the time. If it wasn't Kurt Loder and MTV, if it wasn't like somebody, if it was just like a throwaway interview, they were always just like, I don't know, like snobby in a sense, like just too cool for the room. And it really bugged me. I was like, you guys are supposed to be about like, you're for the people. Like you're supposed to be the people's band, anti-establishment. Like, but you're treating people like shit.
Right.
Like if they don't get you and if they don't understand your politics and they ask questions, they're like, you're pushing them away. So that really rubbed me the wrong way. Fast forward to me hearing that they get inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm like, I wonder if they show up. And now it's only Tom Morello. Why couldn't you just show up? They almost forget, like, they were signed to a major record label. So they were corporate puppets.
Do you think the statement landed like they wanted it to by them not showing up?
I don't think anyone cares. Well, you want to watch Tom Morello?
That's my thought too. I don't think that anybody cares. Like they probably, if this was 20 years ago, it'd be a different story. But I think
people care, but
they do, but I don't think Rage is relevant enough now.
Well, who does it need to be relevant to is the question. To kids, to aspiring artists. I don't think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is relevant.
That's true.
In that sense.
That's true.
I really don't. You and I talk about this because we know Rage, and it's like, I really did want to see what they would do. I wanted to see if they would just be cool about it and accept it, or I wanted to see if they had some sort of like grand gesture or whatever they were going to do to kind of say, fuck you to the man. Because that's what I grew up loving. Their SNL performance with the burning of the flag and the fucking all that shit. But
if you're really gonna do that, why accept the induction?
Yeah, why do it at all? Well,
that would be the ultimate. But I guess if you do that, then you don't get to make the whole theatrical thing by not showing up to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's more of a statement if you accept it and then you don't show up than it is of just not accepting it, because then people are just like, okay, they didn't accept it, whatever, and it's over.
Right.
My name is Tom Morello, and I'm 1/4 of Rage Against the Machine. I am deeply grateful for the musical chemistry I've had the good fortune to share with Brad Wilk, Tim Comerford and Zach De La Rocha. Like most bands, we have differing perspectives on a lot of things, including about being inducted into the Rock Hall.
Ugh.
My perspective is that tonight is a great opportunity to celebrate the music and the mission of the band, to celebrate with the fifth member of the band, and that is Rage Against the Machine's incredible fans. You're the reason we are here, and the best way to celebrate this music is for you to carry on that mission and that message. The lesson I've learned from Rage fans is that music can change the world. Daily, I hear from fans who have been affected by our music and in turn have affected the world in significant ways. Organizers, activists, public defenders, teachers, the presidents of Chile and Finland have all spent time in our mosh pit.
Doesn't it just have a level of just,
It's weird.
it's so it's pretentious, but it's like it's so snobby to me. I don't know.
I feel the same way.
I just hate listening to him talk. Just play the guitar. Like I don't even know if
But
I want to finish this.
Do you feel like that was a call out against the other guys in the band too?
It's hard to say. Who knows with these guys, man? That's the thing. Like, do you remember when the bass player Tim Comerford climbed up on that thing at the MTV Video Music Awards when Limp Bizkit won an award?
Vaguely, I think so. Yeah.
So like, even when that happened, and you got to think about when that happened, that was like 2000, 2001, whenever that was. Even when that happened, it was like, well, what was the statement here? Other than, I'm just kind of a jackass. It was just like, well, are you mad you didn't win? You don't think Limp Bizkit should be winning? And I remember he gave an interview where he talked about like, yeah, we knew who was going to win before they even announced the nominees. It was like, Limp Bizkit this, Limp Bizkit that, Limp Bizkit this. And I'm like, well, bro, you had to have known that it was like, why'd you even go then? Did you just go to protest in the way that you did?
Right.
Very weird.
TV Video Music Awards are known for their surprises, and Thursday's show is no exception. Rage Against the Machine bassist Tim Comerford was arrested after he disrupted the show by climbing part of the set.
Look at young J-Lo and
Angel.
D'Angelo.
And we got a madman.
I wanted to bring the whole thing down, but they didn't move. In my mind, I visualized the whole structure on the ground, you know, and the next time they came out from commercial break, I wanted people to see destruction.
This guy is rock and roll. He should be getting the award.
It was just one of those things where, like, once I was up there, it's like, wow, now what are you going to do?
You think Fred's thinking this guy's a douche in this moment, right?
What?
In this moment, Fred's like, this guy's a douche, right? Like you could hear that in his voice.
You might have been a little bit like, I wish that was me up there.
Eminem was chanting my name, but I was wrong. He was chanting to jump. I saw Dr. Dre, you know, I thought that was weird. He was kind of scratching his head, you know, and I was like, he's not down.
They are going to kick his ass.
Cops, they were embarrassed and humiliated and frustrated because they could not get the cat out of the tree.
Charles Manson's little brother up there.
To be honest with you, I thought it was a beautifully honest act of frustration.
I'm a huge Rage fan, and I guess that is Rage Against the Machine.
And Kid Rock had a couple of good ideas as to how to get him down. I just want to know, is it for world peace? Is it for world poverty? What are we fighting for? Kick it!
Wow. Like I said, dude, the peak of our existence.
Oh man.
So with Rage, I don't know. I mean, I'm glad they're in and it's cool, but yeah, I don't even care to watch the rest of that speech, to be honest with you. It's just it rubs me the wrong way, dude. I don't know. It's always he especially is just always, and he's always been kind of the guy that talks to the media out of that band more so than anyone else. So ugh.
Again, if you had that big of a statement to make, just don't accept the induction is my thing. But I think that every one of them kind of felt like they still needed that, right? Like it's something you kind of look forward to, and you can't really give that up.